Aaron, we're going to get into the week's football in a moment, but before we do that, how are you? Any crack?
No, all's good, Michael. You got the sweat in Castlebar, and I suppose that's where we'll come to with the majority of what we're going to look at. But no, I have to say, as a neutral, maybe not for yourself, but as a neutral sitting at home, it was unbelievable. It was brilliant. Like the days now, thankfully, the days of scrolling through your phone or doing something in the house while games are coming on and popping your head back in around the corner to see what's happening, they're gone, and it was brilliant. Huge excitement for me personally, even sitting at home watching it. Just the heart rate going up, which you don't usually get as a neutral, but that could be maybe 5-6 times this year that I've seen that. Games it didn't involve Armagh. So absolutely brilliant to see. But your own reading in it, or how did you feel
down there? Sorry, it was the same down there. Like you said, whether watching a game at home or at matches over the years, there you'd be happy enough if one of the small ones said, "Come on, I need to go to the shop," or "I need to go to the toilet" in the middle, especially the first half, because you weren't going to miss anything. And it was a conversation going on in the row behind you or with the people beside you. But now, thankfully, we've been served up a few really entertaining and exciting games, and I think it's only a sign of what's to come. And definitely in Castlebar, it was no different the last day, because it went down to the wire. There was a bit of everything thrown in there, a little bit of controversy, the hits, the intensity, the weather was good. So yeah, we've a lot to get through, but it was obviously, and then Galway getting over the line makes it extra special, being biased, but it was great for the Connacht Championship. Big crowd there, over 27,000. We'll have probably even more in Ulster. We're going to have more in Leinster this weekend, so it's good to see.
Yeah, and like the word is up here that they could have sold 50,000 tickets for the Ulster final, which is huge, and that's why it was touted as going to Croke Park. But to see over 50,000 sold out for the Leinster final, or sellout already for the Leinster final in comparison, that's double the figure what it was last year. No, again, that's well down due to Dublin's dominance, but I think the fact that this now opened up as a province, and obviously the new rules, and what we will touch on here, I think it's not really that a lot of what we'll talk about is out of the ordinary. It's an awful lot of stuff that just used to be the norm in the game. But in a short space of time, without getting carried away with the whole thing, I think what we're starting to see is the perfect blend of what everybody wanted, where you have the chaos and a lot of traditions of the old game in terms of one-on-one defending, forwards taking on their men, the long point train shooting, the fetching, stuff that we all come accustomed. But I think the pace, the ferocity, and the skill level that players are now doing, I think it's been, I don't remember a championship been as entertaining across the board as what we've seen so far. And I think you're right. Not only this year, but in time to come, whenever everything gets bedded down and realizes, well, what works for us and how can we change our game on the day, it'll lead to a brilliant spectacle, and you would have to compliment everyone who's involved in the rules. But I suppose we'll go back to what used to be the norm, and it was called man-to-man defending, or mark your own man, and now it's called the high press. And
no block.
There's a low block and high press, but just again, as a neutral, you knew the lead still wasn't enough for Galway to put that game to bed, given the win that there was. And an awful lot of you're sitting with your coaching head on, and you can go in and you can, tactically try to, or you can engage with the players whatever way you want. But the big thing you have to say is, how are we going to win this game? It's what's going right, what's going wrong. But you need to tell your players, how are we going to win this? And to me, Mayo management clearly got the message across right. But I seen it and how Mayo did in the second half against Sligo when I was there. Their press and their ability to go after you in one-on-one situations, to show you into areas you don't want to go to, is absolutely top class, and ultimately what turned the game. And I think initially what you see here, games just started. Ryan O'Donoghue has just hit a 2-pointer, and you have Conor Gleeson going for a kick out. And this is really setting the tone for what's going to come in the start of the second half. Whether they went long or they went short, there was a plan for what Mayo were going to do and how they were going to go after. And I think some of these clips will perfectly illustrate exactly what they did and why it lent to such an entertaining. To be fair to Gleeson, like, you can see him, he's edging his players out. Galway had went for a bunch. You see the two inside forwards heading straight back in, but whenever it doesn't get in, look at them coming back out. Look at O'Donoghue coming out and hunting. But the big thing for me is the body language of Jordan Flynn. So instead of coming running over behind Ryan O'Donoghue and following Liam Silk, he senses danger and he gets in where he knows I'm coming in. He wants to send him back towards Ryan O'Donoghue. And unfortunately for him, a wee bit too eager, he ends up just knocking over Liam Silk, and it is a free out. But again, it was the intent that came from that there. And just a small thing in terms of the angle of his run, that makes all the difference in how you defend in these one-on-one situations. Now, again, O'Donoghue has just tapped over a free, but to see him there straight away, a gesture on left hand, get up, let's press up. Now, whether this is by design or default, they offer up the corner forward position. But what's brilliant about O'Donoghue here is there was no sense in him running over and making contact straight away, because he can be stepped and they're gone. But then he stays goal side, because this is what he wants. He wants to show him the sideline. O'Shea wants him to show the sideline, and a brilliant tackle from Ryan O'Donoghue. But again, this goes back to my point. It's not like, how are we going to win this game? It's okay defending and getting the ball back, but what are we going to do once we get it? And look at the intent and the pace where they all head straight towards the goal and create the score. Same thing again, whether it goes into this corner or not, Aidan O'Shea's body shape, he doesn't commit to it. He wants to show him up the lane. Super tackle on Cian Hernan, and you're thinking, right, that's it. Johnny McGrath, they're out again. But Donegal McHugh does the right thing, keeps him on the sideline. They both double up on Darcy. They both double up. You'd see Donegal McHugh comes back in the O'Shea, and they end up over carrying the ball. So this is the type of intent that they had set out to do that was going to turn the game, and it absolutely lent to a brilliant spectacle. But again, this is for any young forward watching the game. And again, you talk about, lead by your actions. Good ball in by Jack Carney. Doubtful if the pass would have been made last year, but look at the reaction of Ryan O'Donoghue here. Like, he's not laying down feeling sorry for himself. Sprints after McGrath. McGrath tried to take the contact, but O'Donoghue stepped back. But what's brilliant again is, instead of Ryan O'Donoghue getting up shoulder to shoulder with Jordan Flynn, he backs Flynn. He trusts him that he will stop him, and I'm going to be there to double up. Turns back. Similar to, it's the same type of thing. So it's Jordan Flynn's running, but he's thinking about what he's doing whenever he's running. Just as Ryan O'Donoghue, if you look at that clip back again, McGrath tries to step into O'Donoghue, to shrug him off, but O'Donoghue, he slows down a step, and McGrath then has to go on, and he times what he does in terms of coming in, and it was another superb turnover.
Ryan O'Donoghue could have peeled away there at any stage, and you would have said he had done his bit, but by seeing it out, and when Johnny got turned, he was there just to close it down. Yeah, like, it is an excellent example of what you're saying, Aaron.
Yeah, and in terms of, I would say that's what led to the whole spectacle while you were there, and probably the nerves that was coming from a Galway point of view, because you could see yourself what they were going after, the intensity they were bringing. And then again, it's the new rules. It engages the crowd. Like, obviously the team has to give them something to engage them. But you would have to say that there's no doubt about it, the Mayo public were completely engaged and absorbed in what they've seen.
And the big win, Darren, 8 at half time now is 8 points enough, or is 9 points, or 10 points, or 12 points enough? And so that the sense was, quite quickly Mayo got it down to 4, and then they had a level maybe on the 50-minute marker, and all of a sudden then, like, they kind of had a good period of dominance, but just failed to get ahead of Galway, really. And they had the 2 or 3 chances, a couple of twos, and that was a crunch time. But after that, then we saw how maybe the little bit of fear or the little bit of anxiety kicked in, perhaps for Mayo, and Galway were able to regain control under some well-taken kickouts and just slow it down. Move possession up the pitch at their pace a little bit more, get the couple of scores that they needed. But like, it was in the melting pot really at that stage.
It was, and I suppose again, as we're chatting about the new rule, there was an end-to-end bit of play that just, like I mentioned, typified everything that they speak about. So we're going to show it here. It starts off with a Paul Conroy free on the sideline in front of the stand. Plays it up the lane to Kieran Malloy, but there's so much that happens in this this is everything that we want to see in football. It's one-on-one battles absolutely everywhere. Whether that's defence, whether that's attack, and as we let play go on here, we can sort of try and highlight a few key areas of what we're seeing and why it is important. And in this case, you're looking at the one-on-one defending from Jack Coyne on Rob Finnerty. Finnerty's clearly looking to take him hard in along the end lane with a view to stepping back out onto his left foot and getting a shot off. Doesn't allow it at all. Make sure he has to recycle the ball. A small thing here, you see Darren McHale, Jordan Flynn, just not crisscrossing. So whenever they're defending, they're about to follow their players, but instead they just hand them over, say, you stay where you are, I'll take the runner as he comes towards me. And an awful lot of times you'll see players that just don't have that ability to see that there, and they end up crossing and colliding with each other or allowing a man through. But this play just keeps continuing. Kelly, we know how dynamic he is. He tries to go through. He thinks he sees a half gap. Cover comes across, get him turned. We end up here where the play goes back to the far side of the field for a second attempt, where they're trying to go through. But it's Sam Callaghan again, same thing. You can see Cian Darcy where he's trying to step, he's trying to take him on, heading to the far side of the field, trying to probe. They try a long field diagonal ball, but I want to look at the bottom of the screen here. Donovan McHugh, he's on the edge of the arc, man marking job on Matthew Tierney. But instead of standing out doing his job, he gets straight back into the full back lane. Now it's a poor hand pass by Finnerty. You can see what he's trying to do, work one more pass. But McHugh, the point is, he sees what the danger is. He's not being selfish and staying out. I've been given a job to do. I'm not going to help anyone else. He sees there's danger elsewhere and gets back and intercepts. But straight away, as just had been commonplace in the game, up to David Neary. We'll chat about this one in a wee while. Kelly McDade gets a hand on it, but it's just the aggression. Then the Sean Mulcairn attacks the ball straight past Aidan O'Shea and ends up getting his hands on it. So just terrific defending. The chip up from Jack Glynn. It was just at this stage, all bets are off. Then Mulcairn won't thank Cian Darcy. He was looking to offload the ball and get into full back, but Aidan O'Shea puts him under pressure straight away. But similar to the one we mentioned with the Rain, I don't know who fisted point. It's not just about getting the ball back. It's what do we do after that? And the Mayo runners getting ahead of the ball. Darren McHale stretches the field and another brilliant score. But as you mentioned, it was twice that happened where they got back and level terms, and you're thinking, right, now is the time for them to take the next step to see how Galway react. But to be fair to Galway, they were always capable of coming back up the field and getting a score themselves.
Yeah, in the big moments, I think Galway will feel that they got themselves back in the game. They got their hands on the ball and they managed it. They kind of set the tone in the big moments and the big minutes towards the end of the match. But as we both know, that can be very fragile, and there's a lot of luck and everything needs to go your way. But they deserve a lot of credit for how they brought that. A lot of their players just really stood up on the day. If we move on to something that I suppose picked up a little bit on, and if I go back to listening to a podcast, I think it was Jim Gavin was doing the tour at the time, just promoting the rules and the changes, and I forget, was it before or after Christmas, and it possibly was with Joe Malloy, but I think Jim said something to the effect of, the kind of a philosophy for Dublin and for him was, you get the hands on your ball, you get your hands on the ball. First thing is, can I kick it? Okay. If that's not on, can I hand pass? And then the third thing is, I'll take a play. I love, as a player, I and playing in the time that I played, that was something that you lived on, because if you were in the inside forward line, you relied on early ball. You didn't, unless they were too far away, you didn't want anyone soloing, you want them looking up and putting it in. And we're starting to see bits and pieces of that, and we'll jump back. We look at Kerry in particular, because they really went for it this weekend. But before that, if we jump back a week to Louth and Kildare, and just there's a lovely example here where Brian McLaughlin picks up the ball, and straight away he's up, he's scanning, he's looking inside, and he's saying, right, this is very early in the game. Granted, it was obviously something they had worked on, but he puts in a lovely ball here to the edge of the 21. And the thing I'd say about it, it's not perfect. You know, there are bodies back there, but he has a go. It works out in their favour in this instance. And with a nice little pass outside, it ends up with a good score from Ryan Burke early on. And Kildare had a little bit of success at that in the first half, and that's what, you know, gave them a strong start in the game. They raced into a 5 or 6 point lead. Here we're going to see a peach of a pass in by James McGrath, in fairness, and he's looking up straight away. And Kevin Feely is going to be the man on the end of this, and he regularly drifts in, you know, from midfield into this position to collect the ball, and that's the ball I associate with Armagh in 02. All day, you know, that diagonal ball to the two guys inside and one feeding off the other. It was a great score. So Aaron, looking into this week, and you know, I'm thinking Castlebar, big win, right? And I know you can only do it in one half, but a big win and a big full forward, maybe like Aidan O'Shea. I'm wondering, like, how come there isn't more ball going into him, you know, 1-on-1 or a 2-on-2 with Ryan O'Donoghue beside him, and those situations were there. They were 1-on-1 and 2-on-2. And I'm glad. I know we had a matchup maybe with Sean Fitzgerald, but I still think you get a ball in there, and the big man doesn't even have to win it clean. Once he can direct it, the second forward coming around that, you have a great opportunity. You're going to pick up the ball, turning, maybe heading for goal or heading, you know, on the turn, and you've a great chance to. And we know what Ryan O'Donoghue is like in those situations: his footwork and his pace and his ability to get around a player, and he knows where the goal is as well. So the one example here in the first, it was in the second half that we see. I think it's going to be David Neary who tries it, and the ball is coming out to him. And one thing I'd say here is credit to Killian McDade. He takes the sting off that, but. So that ball is probably aimed for Aidan O'Shea breaking onto it. And what we see is Galway will intercept in a minute with a great bit of play by Sean Mulcairn. But in my mind, you know, at this stage now, we're watching the two Mayo players are coming straight towards the ball. I would like to have seen them breaking, you know, starting off going to the kicker, but then you're cutting off to the side, either to the left corner of the pitch or back towards the stand side there. And it's obviously going to take a different kind of kick, but you can see the space that Aidan O'Shea has from his man there. If he gets a ball, you know, here or over his head, there's no winning that. He's out in front, his body's protecting it, he has the position. But the couple of things happened. The run is straight, and the speed is taken off the ball with the little half block by Killian McDade, and it works out in Galway's favour. But that 2-on-2 and 1-on-1 happened a lot. And I think we're going to see more of it. And when we move on to the Kerry game, which is the next couple of clips,
particularly if he got that going to the stand side, Michael, he's already on the half turn.
Exactly.
And he can pop past the ball into Ryan O'Donoghue. And
or he's coming onto his left foot there as well, you know, for a chip over the bar. And if we go to Killarney then, right, so here we have Kerry, and they really went for this. So that's David Clifford. He's standing, I'd say, on the 6-yard line, or maybe on inside around the penalty spot, and there is nobody else inside the 45. Okay, so very early in the game again, kick out's going to come, but that's, you know, huge space there. Clare have pushed out; they're not leaving anyone extra back. The kick out goes long. I think it's Barry Dan who picks up the ball, and watch, like he hardly has the ball in his hands, and he's looking inside. Now, this time it's actually going to be closed off, right? But the intent is there. Can we hit David inside? The ball is going to end up being worked around. And watch this then, okay? So eventually it makes its way over to the far side. We have a couple of Kerry players calling for the ball. The man who doesn't get it there that we can see, I think that's Micheál Burns. He's looking inside, you know, what's happening in there. He may well be communicating what's going on to Tony Brosnan. And straight away, Tony Brosnan, you can see by his body position, his head is up. The ball is ready to be dropped to his foot, and he puts in a serious ball here to David, who takes an unbelievable take. But like, watch what that does. It wipes out 8 Clare players in one kick. You know, a huge amount of space. What a fetch! He has a little bit of work to do, and he gets a little bit of luck, but he finds the back of the net, and like that's after 2 or 3 minutes.
You're an inside forward, Michael. You're reading those kickers outside, aren't you? You know your kickers. You know the man that's going to play you the ball, or you know the flight that this ball is going to come in at. And there's a bit of telepathy, isn't there, between you as an inside forward and the kickers out the field.
Yeah, a very good point. I like going back to even time with club and county. You had a fair idea of the type of ball you were going to get from the particular player that had his hands on it. So you made your runs or didn't make your runs accordingly. And it was a feature of that game. Tony Brosnan was that bit further up the pitch, and he was just looking up, and the ball was going off his boot every time, and to some success. I think in this clip, when we play it on here, it's going to be Tom O'Sullivan. And Tom O'Sullivan, again, Tom takes his time over the ball. He looks up maybe once or twice, and he has a sweet left foot. He puts in a lovely pass again, which is very well taken by Geaney, but taking out 7 defenders that time, this is going to end up in the back of the net again, but it's just that intent to move that ball in. A nice little touch from David as well there. But each time and every time it was the intent. This is, again, the second half, right? So same rules apply here, but I thought this was gas. Tony Brosnan is actually hopping the ball while he's looking up. A great bit of skill to be able to do it, but he's literally hopping and he's picking out, what am I doing as soon as I get this ball up? And he's waiting for David to make his run. The only problem is he gets under it. That doesn't go. That's about 15 or 20 yards short, isn't it, of where it should land? And if it does land where it should land, it's right into the hands of Clifford, and he's bearing down on goal, and he's probably going to rattle the onion bag again.
Yeah, and again, that's something that just doesn't happen by chance. That's something that's been worked on night after night in training. Telepathy between players, whether Sean O'Shea, Tom O'Sullivan, Tony Brosnan, and you're right, just like we mentioned about Aidan O'Shea, you can be guaranteed off a few seconds previous, David Clifford was heading to the left corner, to the 13 position.
The hand signals were up, as well.
He knows I'm doubling back, I'm taking it on the half turn, and that's it. I'm letting fly. There's a goal opportunity here, but it's great to see it. And like we mentioned this last week, it is something that probably will enhance as the weeks goes on. But you're talking sort of, there's an old school feel to it, but Paul McGrain used to always play with us, used to always say the worst ball you'll give a forward is no ball. So that's certainly coming back into the game.
One thing, if I just thinking back to Galway Mayo, and Galway didn't try it either, but you can be damn sure if Damien Comer was fit and in the inside forward line, there would have been 2 or 3 balls put into him, long and direct. And he would have been, starting to run well inside the 14 or the 21, and kind of, if you're running at an angle, you're taking it still inside the 14 or 21 or not much further out. And that's what would have happened in that last example for Clifford if it went the distance. And in all the other examples, they were no further than 21 yards out. And when you get a turn on your back on the defender there, there's a goal chance for you or for somebody else.
Yeah, well, I suppose just to flip back to Castlebar again, and the big one that stood out for me again is we're all trying to learn this new game. We're trying to learn the game scenarios. We all know the hooter goes off and what happens now, but I just want to have a look at how Galway defended. Matthew Tierney gets the black card, and Porrick Joyce, in the before the game, said it's the team who shows the most composure late on will win this game. But it's what Galway do at this stage whenever they know Mayo will try to force the 2-pointer. An awful lot of what happens now is players will all defend the 40-metre arc itself, or maybe the 45 at best.
Right.
But they realise we cannot allow them to get any deeper here. You look at all the Galway players that have pushed right outside the 45. They're willing to go man-to-man. Even in this instance, you have 4 players chasing 3 on the opposite side of the field whenever time's up. This simply wouldn't have happened last year. No. But if we just look at the Galway tracking of players and a few key players in particular. So for me, obviously, having studied Mayo earlier in the year, their 2-point threats was Ryan O'Donoghue. Look at Johnny McGrath, forcing him back, not giving him that opportunity. Another one is Matty Ruan, and then Fergal Boland coming off the bench. They're the 3 key players that I would be screaming at in terms of can't let them get the 2-point threat. So you'll see them at the time O'Donoghue gets the ball, and just as you had mentioned, his footwork, his willingness to take contact, but McGrath just stays goal side. But look at Paul Conroy's body shape here. Straight away, Matty Ruan wants to step on to his left and get on to his right. But Conroy just turns his whole body shape, basically saying, you're not coming on to your left foot first here. And Ruan has to think himself. But again, just if you look at the discipline, the communication, and the one-on-one awareness from Galway players to never allow them get that run to get close. Now, unfortunately for them in this case, O'Donoghue gets the ball, Flynn peels off. I think if that goes into Jordan Flynn's hands, he's going off the outside of his right boot. But the fact that it runs in front of him and just the pressure and the hooter is gone, he forces it slightly wider to Matty Ruan than what he would have liked. Now, he is well capable of kicking that, but I would say if they had their time back again with the ball running in front of Jordan Flynn, they would have just reset and went again because there was no panic to take that shot. Matty Ruan has that in his locker, but you really want to be more central, similar to what you had explained the week previous, what you had seen with Cathal O'Mahony for Cork with the last kick of the game down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh.
Yeah, and like some players, the outside of the boot is what they do. But for me anyway, and I think for most, the inside of the boot, the hook kick is a safer, more reliable, more predictable effort. So like you said, that was a lower percentage shot than if that ball had fallen into the hands direct for Jordan Flynn. He could have gone offside the boot. I think he actually could have gone with a normal hook kick over the bar, and that was the chance there. But other than that, it probably was recycled. But like they had put in a phenomenal effort physically and mentally at that stage. So like it's you can't fault the decision making either. It's just everything was left out there.
And there was a few more key defining moments that you were there. You seen in the flash.
Yeah. So just the first one here, I think it's just worth to mention. I think he had an absolute massive game for Galway. He took the fight to Mayo all day, and he got a couple of vital scores. But he picks that ball up on his own 45, and like Aaron, you know how tiring that is when you're soloing and pushing a man off, and someone's after you, and he doesn't foul. He doesn't overplay the ball. He ends up getting fouled outside the box, and that's where the free. That's a vital score. That is absolute massive. And then the last play of the game. So the block down here, the intent by Dylan McHugh to get across. So he knows he's committed to the block down even before it falls into the hands of the Mayo forward there, and he just puts his body there. And the fight, it's not over yet, because watch here, Liam Silk makes up yards there to come out and get that ball. There is no one getting it. He has no right to get that ball, but there's no one getting it ahead of him. And this is the score. It could have been level if that shot wasn't blocked, and we go up here and Liam O'Conneilla. And again, everyone is just a dogfight. Liam O'Conneilla, who wants to go onto his right, I think, but eventually realizes this has to go off the left, and it goes over, and that's the 2 point difference. And it's just that was the match winning moment, really. But like, I think we're seeing these things. We're seeing them, and it's just, I suppose I'm being biased now as well, right? But like that was massive stuff out of Killian at a super game, and the whole sequence, the Curfin back, Dylan McHugh, Liam Silk there, like just Galway coming out with that ball come hell or high water, and that's what they needed to bring to see off Mayo on the day.
Yeah, and the big one for me about Killian is as he's carrying the ball up the field. I'd only ever met him once in person. It was after the Dublin game last year, and what struck me was the size of his upper body, of his chest, of his arm. And as he's carrying that ball, to have the ability to solo and catch in one hand and just shrug Enda Hession off, who's doing everything right. He's near hand tackling, he's grappling with him the whole way. He even spills the ball, he regains it, he takes another play. So it's probably he had to get the score himself, or it had to been scored from the modern day Michael Donlan against Galway version of Galway football. And then, to be fair to Dylan McHugh, just absolute courage and just game smarts to see. He knows this route, this lap round's coming, the shot's going off, and just absolute textbook, right down on the foot, gets the block. And then, as you mentioned, Liam Silky, I could see him myself on TV just coming from the corner of the screen to get that hand on it. So, just typified what was an unbelievable game of football. Thoroughly entertained.
Absolutely. I wonder who we're going to be picking out next week after the weekend's games up north and in Leinster. But really looking forward to that too as well. It's going to be a busy weekend, Saturday and Sunday. But listen, that's it, I think, for almost for this week's episode of In Detail. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.